of Representatives passed a bill that will ban TikTok in the US. Is this even legal? Hello, all you beautiful people. World's okayest lawyer here, busting out my vintage Rocky t-shirt. Folks are freaking out about the US banning their favorite social media platform, and not just influencers. Folks have been hearing that the ban is based on national security, but do you really know what that even means? To make this simple, there are two paths that national security actions can occur, from the president and from Congress. As we saw, this action was created by Congress, and this is important. Just in case other attorneys are watching this, I am fully aware of other laws, but this video is to educate the masses who may not have our same knowledge in a very difficult area of law. So paths for national security laws were mostly carved out in Youngstown Sheet v. Sawyer. This was in the 1952 in the Supreme Court, and this is often called the Steel Seizure case. It's also known as National Security Constitution. So in this case, President Truman issued an executive order taking ownership and control of the steel industry and kept mills operating to provide goods for national security. And this is why, while people were trying to strike due to pay and whatnot, Congress twice refused to give Truman these powers, so he did it on his own. A suit for injunction was brought under a political question. And a political question just means if somebody does something from either a state level or a federal level, do they have the power to do this? That's one of the bases that you can get into federal court. And in this case was, does the president have this power? So the majority opinion was written by Justice Black, and he kept it pretty much textual, stating that Article 2, which is the powers that go to the president, may have had more of an effect if the U.S. was attacked. So in a foreign conflict, the president can't use his commander-in-chief title in national emergency to take private property, which was what happened in this case. So he was stating, hey, we're at war with Korea. Because we're at war with Korea, I now have this power to take this domestic action. Justice Black essentially said that giving President Truman this power would make him a dictator. We don't really want our presidents acting like dictators. The concurrence was written by Justice Jackson, and this is the most important aspect of the case, and this is where the president's power has been determined in all future cases. So this would be the zones of powers of the president. There are 3 tiers. Tier 1 is when the president acts pursuant to delegated authority. So this act is express or implied authorization of Congress. And then Jackson included the term implied. So Congress is often sitting on the fence. This is where, think about going back to our initial invasion of Iraq after the terrorist attack. President Bush sent a bunch of soldiers over to Iraq in order to eradicate the evil regime of Saddam Hussein. And I say this because some of you will say this, and some of you will say, heck yeah. Congress never officially declared war. But Congress also didn't turn around and backhand him and say, hey, you need to stop that and you need to bring our soldiers home. Tier 2 is when president acts with congressional acquiescence. And this is when the president acts in absence of either a congressional grant or denial of authority. He can only rely upon his own independent powers. But the zone in which he and Congress may have concurrent authority. So it exists at least as a practical matter. It does not exercise authority, but of responsibility. Tier 3 is when the president takes measures incompatible with the will of Congress. And this is what happened in the Youngstown case. Is Congress kept saying, no, you can't do this. And President Truman did it anyway. This is when he is at what's called the lowest ebb, or the lowest level of his presidential authority. So, that's trying to make this all real simple. What we have here is that Congress is the drafter of this bill. President Biden has already stated that if it hits his desk, that he will sign this bill. If this is the case, this would put this case as a Zone 1 case, as both the Congress and the presidency will be in agreement. If this is not something you want, then I would highly recommend you calling your senators early and often to voice your opposition to this bill. Something to keep in mind, though, is that this is a bipartisan bill. And what I mean by bipartisan is that both the Republicans and the Democrats want this bill to pass. So with there being this agreement, I am not confident that any amount of phone calls will stop this from moving forward. I hope that's not the case. I love TikTok. It's great for my ADHD. I like to scroll and see what you all have to say. Some of it makes me laugh. Some of it, breaks my heart. But man, it's a great app. And I sure like it a lot better than the other apps. You like what I had to say? Please be sure to follow me on whatever social media you saw this posted. I cannot thank you enough for listening to what my world's okayest opinions are. Lastly, it costs $0 to be kind. It is the best money that you'll ever spend. Until next time, beautiful people. Peace.